Good evening and welcome back to the channel, or good morning if you're catching this in the morning. We're going to continue with Nehemiah today, and more than likely we're going to finish it today because it's only three more chapters. So before we begin, our prayer. Father, as I read and receive your word, may it deeply be rooted in me, so when difficulty comes, it will be your word that encourages and strengthens me. Amen. So chapter 11, the people occupied Jerusalem. Now the leaders of the people were living in Jerusalem, the holy city at this time. A tenth of the people were from the other towns of Judah and Benjamin were chosen by sacred laws to live there too, while the rest stayed where they were. And the people commended everyone who volunteered to resettle in Jerusalem. Here is a list of the names of the provincial officials who came to Jerusalem. Most of the people, priests, Levites, temple servants, and descendants of Solomon's servants continued to live in their own homes in the various towns of Judah. But some of the people from Judah and Benjamin resettled in Jerusalem. From the tribe of Judah, Athaiah, son of Uzziah, son of Zechariah, son of Amariah, son of Shephatiah, son of Mahalo, of the family of Perez. And Maaseiah, son of Baruch, son of Kolhazah, son of Haziah, son of Adiah, son of Joarib, son of Zechariah, of the family Shelah. There were also 468 descendants of Perez who lived in Jerusalem, all outstanding men. From the tribe of Benjamin, Shalu, son of Meshullam, son of Joed, son of Pedaiah, son of Koliah, son of Maaseiah, son of Ithiel, son of Jeshua, and after him there were Gabai and Sali, a total of 928 relatives. Their chief officer was Joel, son of Zikri, who was assisted by Judah, son of Hasanua, second in command over the city. From the priests, Jedediah, son of Jorab, Jakin, and Sariah, son of Hilkiah, son of Meshullam, son of Zadok, son of Meraiah, son of Ahitub, the supervisor of the temple of God, together with 822 of their associates who worked at the temple. Also there was Adiah, son of Jeroham, son of Pelaliah, son of Amzi, son of Zechariah, son of Pashur, son of Malchijah, and 242 of his associates, who were heads of their families. There were also Amashai, son of Azarel, son of Ahazah, son of Meshillemoth, son of Immer, and 128 of his outstanding associates. Their chief officer was Zabdiel, son of Haggedolim. From the Levites, Shemaiah, son of Hashub, son of Azarkam, son of Hashabiah, son of Buni, Shabbathiah, Jozabad, who were in charge of the work outside the temple of God. Mattaniah, son of Micah, son of Zabdi, a descendant of Asaph, who opened the thanksgiving services with prayer. Bakbukiah, who was Manatiah's assistant, and Nabda, son of Shammua, son of Galal, son of Jeduthun. In all, there were 284 Levites in the holy city. From the gatekeepers, Akkub, Talmon, and 172 of their associates who guarded the gates. The other priests, Levites, and the rest of the Israelites lived wherever their family inheritance was located in any of the towns of Judah. However, the temple servants, whose leaders were Zihai, Gishpa, all lived on the hill in Ophel. The chief officer of the Levites in Jerusalem was Uzzi, son of Bani, son of Hasapadiah, son of Mattaniah, son of Micah, a descendant of Asaph, whose family served as singers at God's temple. They were under royal orders which determined their daily activities. Pethathiah, son of Meshezabel, a descendant of Zerah, son of Judah, was the king's agent in all matters of public administration. Some of the people of Judah lived in Kiritha Arba with its villages, Dibon, with its villages, and Jacobzeel with its villages. They also lived in Jeshua, Moladah, Beth Pelet, Hazar Shual, Beersheba with its villages, Ziklag, and Mechanoah with its villages. They were also in Enrimmon, Zorah, Jarmuth, Zanoah, and Adullam with their villages. They were also in Lachish and its nearby fields, and Azekah with its surrounding villages. So the people of Judah were living in all the way from the Beersheba to the valley of Hinnom. Some of the people of Benjamin lived at Geba, Michmash, Aijah, and Bethel with its surrounding villages. They were also in Anathoth, Noab, Ananiah, Hazar, Ramah, Gittim, Hadid, Zeboim, Nebalat, Lod, Ono, and the valley of craftsmen. Some of the Levites who lived in Judah were sent to live with the tribe in Benjamin. Chapter 12. A history of the priests and Levites. Here is a list of the priests and Levites who had returned with Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, and Jeshua the high priest. Sariah, Jeremiah, Ezra, Amariah, Moloch, Hattush, Shechaniah, Haram, Meremoth, Iddo, Ginnathon, Abijah, Miniman, Moadiah, Bilgah, Shemiah, Joarab, Jediah, Shalu, Amok, Hilkiah, and Jedediah. These were the leaders of the priests and their associates in the days of Jeshua. The Levites who had returned with them were Jeshua, Binnui, Kadmiel, Sherebiah, Judah, and Mattaniah, who with his associates was in charge of the songs of thanksgiving. Their associates, Bakbukiah, Uni, stood opposite them during the service. Jeshua the high priest was the father of Joachim. Joachim was the father of Elisahib. Elisahib was the father of Joadiah. Joadiah was the father of Johanan. Johanan was the father of Jaddua. Now when Joachim was high priest, the family leaders of the priests were as follows. Moriah was the leader of the family of Sariah. Hananiah was the leader of the family of Jeremiah. Meshullam was the leader of the family of Ezra. Jehonan was leader of the family of Amariah. Jonathan was the leader of the family of Moloch. Joseph was the leader of the family of Shechaniah. Adnah was the leader of the family of Haram. Hilkiah was the leader of the family of Meremoth. Zechariah was the leader of the family of Iddo. Meshullam was leader of the family of Ginnathon. Zikri was the leader of the family of Abijah. There was also a leader of the family of Miniamin. Piltiah was the leader of the family of Modiah. Shammua was leader of the family of Bilgah. Jehonathan was leader of the family of Shemiah. Mattaniah was the leader of the family of Jorab. Uzzi was the leader of the family of Jedediah. Uzzi was the leader of the family of Jedediah. Kalai was the leader of the family of Salu. Eber was the leader of the family of Amok. Hashabiah was the leader of the family of Hilkiah. Nathaniel was leader of the family of Jedediah. During the reign of Darius II of Persia, a list was compiled of the family leaders of the Levites and the priests in the days of the family high priests. Eliashib, Jodiah, Johanan, and Jaddua. The heads of the Levite families were recorded in the book of history down to the days of Johanan, the grandson of Eliashib. These were the family leaders of the Levites: Hashabiah, Sherebiah, Jeshua, Binnui, Kadmiel, and other associates who stood opposite them during the ceremonies of praise and thanksgiving. One section responding to the other, just as commanded by David, the man of God. This included Mattaniah, Bakbukiah, and Obadiah. Meshullam, Talmud, and Akub were the gatekeepers in charge of the storerooms at the gates. These all served in the days of Joachim, son of Jeshua, son of Jehozadak, and in the days of Nehemiah the governor, and of Ezra the priest and scribe. Dedication of Jerusalem's wall. During the dedication of the new wall of Jerusalem, the Levites throughout the land were asked to come to Jerusalem to assist in the ceremonies. They were to take part in the joyous occasion with their songs of thanksgiving and with the music of cymbals, lyres, and harps. The singers were brought together from Jerusalem and its surrounding villages, from the village of Netophites. They also came from Beth Gilgal and the area of Geba and Asmath, for the singers had built their own villages around Jerusalem. The priests and Levites first dedicated themselves, then the people, the gates, and the wall. I led the leaders of Judah to the top of the wall and organized 2 large choirs to give thanks. One of the choirs proceeded southward along the top of the wall to the dung gate. Hoshashiah and half the leaders of Judah followed them, along with Azariah, Ezra, Meshullam, Judah, Benjamin, Shemaiah, Jeremiah, and some priests who played trumpets. Then came Zechariah, son of Jonathan, son of Shemaiah, son of Mattaniah, son of Micaiah, son of Zakur, a descendant of Asaph. And finally came Zechariah's colleagues, Shemaiah, Azarel, Melali, Galali, Mai, Nathaniel, Judah, and Hanani. They used the musical instruments prescribed by David, the man of God. Ezra the scribe led this procession. At the fountain gate, they went straight up the steps on the ascent of the city wall toward the city of David. They passed the house of David and then proceeded to the water gate on the east. The second choir went northward around the other way to meet them. I followed them with the other half of the people along the top of the wall, past the tower of the ovens to the broad wall. Then past the Ephraim gate to the old city gate, past the fish gate and the tower of Hanil. It went on to the tower of the 100. Then we continued on to the sheep gate and stopped at the guard gate. The 2 choirs that were giving thanks then proceeded to the temple of God, where they took their places. So did I. Together with a group of leaders who were with me, we went together with the trumpet-playing priests, Eliakim, Maaseiah, Menahem, Micaiah, Elionai, Zechariah, and Hananiah, and the singers Maaseiah, Shemish, Eleazar, Uzi, Jehonan, Malchijah, Elam, and Ezer. They played and sang loudly and clearly under the direction of Jezreiah, the choir director. Many sacrifices were offered on the joyous day, for God had given the people cause for great joy. The women and children also participated in the celebration, and the joy of the people of Jerusalem could be heard far away. Provisions for temple worship. On that day, men were appointed to be in charge of their storerooms for the gifts, the first part of the harvest, and the tithes. They were responsible to collect these from the fields as required by law for the priests and Levites. For all people of Judah valued the priests and Levites and their work. They performed the service of their God and the service of purification, as required by the laws of David and his son Solomon, and so did the singers and the gatekeepers. The custom of having choir directors to lead the choirs and hymns of praise and thanks to God began long ago in the days of David and Asaph. So now in the days of Zerubbabel, and of Nehemiah, the people brought a daily supply of food for the singers, the gatekeepers, and the Levites. The Levites, in turn, gave a portion of what they received to the priests, the descendants of Aaron. Oh, I'm going to have to stop there. Yeah, we're almost at 15 minutes. I wonder if I can just get through this. I'm just going to it's going to be a long video. Chapter 13, Nehemiah's various reforms. On that same day, as the book of Moses was being read, the people found a statement which said that no Ammonite or Moabite should ever be permitted to enter the assembly of God, for they had not been friendly to the Israelites when they left Egypt. Instead, they hired Balaam to curse them, though our God turned the curse into a blessing when this law was read. All those mixed ancestry were immediately expelled from the assembly. Before this had happened, Eliashib the priest, who had been appointed as supervisor of the storeroom of the temple of God, and who was a relative of Tobiah, had converted a large storage room and placed it in Tobiah's disposal. The room had previously been used for storing the grain offerings, frankincense, temple utensils, and tithes of grain, new wine, olive oil, and the special portions set aside for the priests. Moses has decreed that these offerings belong to the Levites, the singers, and the gatekeepers. I was not in Jerusalem at that time, for I had returned to the king in the 32nd year of the reign of King Artaxerxes of Babylon, though I later received his permission to return. When I arrived back in Jerusalem and learned that the extent of this evil deed of Eliashib, that he had provided Tobiah with a room in the courtyards of the temple of God, I became very upset and threw all of Tobiah's belongings from the room. Then I demanded the rooms be purified, and I brought back the utensils for God's temple, the grain offerings, and the frankincense. I also discovered that the Levites had not been given what was due to them, so they and the singers who were to conduct the worship services had all returned to work in their fields. I immediately confronted the leaders and demanded, "Why has the temple of God been neglected?" Then I called all the Levites back again and restored them to their proper duties. And once more all the people of Judah began bringing their tithes of grains, new wine, and olive oil to the temple storerooms. I put Shelemiah the priest, Zadok the scribe, and Pedaiah one of the Levites in charge of the storeroom. And I appointed Hanan son of Zaccur and grandson of Mattaniah as their assistant. These men had an excellent reputation, and it was their job to make honest distributions to their fellow Levites. Remember this good deed, O my God, and do not forget that all I have faithfully done for the temple of my God. One Sabbath day, I saw some men of Judah treading their winepress. They were also bringing in bundles of grain and loading them on their donkeys. And on that day they were bringing their wine, grapes, figs, and all sorts of produce to Jerusalem to sell. So I rebuked them for selling their produce on the Sabbath. There were also some men from Tyre bringing in fish and all kinds of merchandise. They were selling on the Sabbath to the people of Judah and in Jerusalem at that. So I confronted the leaders of Judah. Why are you profaning the Sabbath in this evil way? Wasn't it enough that your ancestor did this sort of thing so that our God brought the present troubles upon us and our city? Now you are bringing even more wrath upon the people of Israel by permitting the Sabbath to be desecrated in this way. So I commanded that from them on the gates of the city should be shut as darkness fell every Friday evening, not to be opened until the Sabbath ended. I also sent some of my own servants to guard the gate so that no merchandise could be brought in on the Sabbath day. The merchants and tradesmen with a variety of wares camped outside Jerusalem once or twice. But I spoke sharply to them and said, "What are you doing here, camping around the wall? If you do this again, I will arrest you." And that was the last time they came in on the Sabbath. Then I commanded the Levites to purify themselves, to guard the gates, in order to preserve the holiness of the Sabbath. Remember this good deed also, O my God. Have compassion on me, according to your great and unfailing love. About the same time, I realized that some of the men of Judah had married women from Ashdod, Ammon, and Moab. Even worse, half their children spoke in the language of Ashdod or some other people and could not speak the language of Judah at all. So I confronted them and called down curses on them. I beat some of them and pulled out their hair. I made them swear before God that they would not let their children intermarry with the pagan people of the land. Wasn't this exactly what led King Solomon of Israel into sin? I demand there was no king from any nation who could compare to him. And God loved him and made him king over all Israel. But even he was led into sin by his foreign wives. How could you even think of committing this sinful deed and acting unfaithfully toward God by marrying foreign women? One of the sons of Joiah, son of Eliashib, the high priest, had married a daughter of Sanballat of Horonath, so I banished him from my presence. Remember them, O my God, for they have defiled the priesthood and the promise and vows of the priests and Levites. So I purged out everything foreign and assigned tasks to the priests and Levites, making certain that each knew his work. I also made sure that the supply of wood for the altar was brought at proper times, and that the first part of the harvest was collected on for the priests. Remember this in my favor, O my God. So as a recap of what Nehemiah is, he was the author. The date was 5th century BC. The content is the book of Nehemiah continues the story begun by Ezra. It deals with the life of a newly established community. The major event covered by Nehemiah is the rebuilding of the city walls. The book begins by explaining why Jerusalem needed this protection and continues with a discussion of how the walls were built in spite of numerous problems, both in the community and outside of it. Before the project was completed, the entire nation had to confess its wrongs. The theme is people are slow to learn the lessons of God wants to teach them. The Israelites had been taken into captivity because of their sin, but now the very same problems arose again. The people were neglecting worship, prayer, and teaching of God's word, not to mention that they were treating each other unjustly. But God in his patience continued to send his messengers to them to offer forgiveness and direction. I know this was a long reading. I just couldn't break it up like that. But tomorrow I'll be back, and we'll start the book of Esther at that point in time. I hope you have a great day and a blessed day whenever you hear this. And until then, bye.